Alright. Alright. This is my third video diary to myself. And I almost forgot, but I didn't. And I'm really thankful for that. So yeah, this week I've felt the turning point. I really have felt the turning point. As I'm observing the layers of my thoughts that are trying to get me to think in old thought patterns, which is the imposter syndrome, which is the victim syndrome, which is the I can't do it syndrome, amongst other things, right? And I'm going through. Shout out to Safe to Expand, which is a container led by Indigo Ira. And it's been, she worked with me about being able to actually pay for it and stuff. And but just some of the things that I learned, I've known what emotional regulation is, and I've been taking the deep breaths, and I've been feeling the feelings, but she invited a guest named Lauren Marie, who, something about the way that she explained it, it just clicked to me. It was like, you take a breath, and you have to allow yourself to, there's feelings, that are in your body. And particularly for me, I've stored up some, recently I've stored up some trauma, and of course our historical trauma with our family and our ancestral trauma, right? It's in there. It's like a storage. It's a storage. Our body is like a computer. It's got storage in it. So in order to delete the old storage, this is me explaining it in a way that makes sense to me. In order to delete the old storage, you have to locate the storage, right? And locating the storage for a human is actually feeling it. Is actually feeling what your body is experiencing. And so that's what this is what I learned from Lauren, and she provided some tips on how to actually let it pass through, and I've been doing them. And I'm gonna have to tag her in this as well, right in the video description. But just really allowing the emotion to come through, whether it be, for me, what's been coming up is hatred, rage, anxiety. But one thing that Lauren mentioned that was really important was that these are opportunity for us to expand our capacity, no matter what it is that we're feeling, right? She had mentioned anxiety at first, but I'm realizing it's for any emotion that we feel. It's an opportunity to expand our capacity and bridge it out, because I've been repeating some affirmations to myself about being rooted in adaptable stability, being prosperous, availability for multimillionaire and billionaire levels of stewardship, for just an outpouring of support, for aligned community, just an entire ecosystem of freedom for myself and my children. And for the community that's around me is also doing the same. We're building this out. And so, this is a infrastructure that is, I know it. There's no question. I know that I'm free, right? I have it written on my wall. 3 things that go congruently with each other. My will is mine. My will is mine. I am in control of my willpower. I choose what it is that I will. Consciousness evolution is inevitable. It's inevitable. It's inevitable. We are going to evolve as consciousness. Things evolve. Things change. There's a line from Osho. I might have actually mentioned this on the first day that I did this, but there's a line from Osho where he basically, I'll paraphrase it because I can't remember it directly, but change is not something that we do, it's something that we allow. It's inevitable. And this is what I was tying back more to. Being free is known first. Whatever the external circumstances that are around us, the external is a manifestation of the internal. We know this. So if I'm free in here first, then it has to manifest out. And there's, a lot of my thinking I juxtapose it with Black liberation thinking or indigenous liberation thinking, studying indigenous thinkers or Black leaders of Black liberation movements, Black nationalism. And the feeling of knowing that we cannot be free until everybody else is free. That's something that I've been ruminating on, especially in this avatar, right? This avatar of presentation, one being of privilege, one being of mixed descent, but particularly from colonizer and imperial backgrounds. Now, my mother's side is definitely, her indigenous roots are very much that. And even I'm so proud of her. I'm so proud of her. I called her yesterday and I let her know I've been doing this thing. I've just been, I'll get to that. But, you know, thinking about what it means to have this avatar understanding the fundamentals of consciousness, that people are operating based on their level of consciousness. And that's not to take away responsibility from the powers that are actively cultivating systems of oppression so that people can't know that, right? They are accountable and responsible for everything that they've done. Everything that they've done is very interesting, because it's, when I think about the Orishas, right? When I think about the deities, when I think about the fundamentals of nature, even like a storm, right? The Orishas, they, from my understanding, I'm not studied in Yoruba, I'm not speaking on it from a expert practitioner. This is based on what others have shared of me and my limited scope and understanding and appreciation for that limited scope of understanding. Diving into Yoruba, diving into that, that's not something that I am going to intentionally do unless I've been specifically invited in by practitioners or people who are actively practicing that. That's not something that I'm actively going to study in depth. I appreciate the knowledge and wisdom that I've received thus far. And based on the wisdom that I've received thus far, that is what I view to be a gateway and offering, and I appreciate it, I respect it, and I'm honored to be able to receive that information from the Orishas, from the ancestors, via the conduits of others sharing it to me, or from other things that I've seen. I'm not outwardly seeking it, it's just what I've received trickled down so far. But from my understanding of that, all the Orishas, they fundamentally represent forces of nature. And those forces of nature can be used for good or for bad, and they are still forces of nature. When we see a storm, we can see that the storm harms some people, but it also clears away debris. It does a full reset, right? And being in the colonizer lineage, I can see how, because from my understanding, these colonizers, they're using the deities, they're using the Yoruba deities, they're using the original gods and telling people there's only one God, and using all of these while also knowing that fully that they are interconnectedness. And it's from an there's like the intellectual understanding that I'm communicating right now, and then there's the embodied practice, right? The intellectual understanding is that fundamentally we're all still consciousness. We're all still operating from this interconnectedness, right? And there are those that don't want people to know that, which is fundamentally crazy. That's not how that works. I mean, of course, with each lifetime, you know, each individual avatar may not necessarily come to that full actualization immediately, but the fundamental truth of everything being interconnected is that's just the fundamental truth. It's never something that can be erased. And there is an inevitability for people to understand this. I know this is a lot of threads kind of tying all at once, but when we think about how we can move, and I'm bringing this back to my body as one who studied Black nationalism and studied some of the liberation movements of my people, not in depth about Chinese people. You know, that history hasn't been accessible to me just yet. Because for me, I'm part Caucasian, or I know that's not necessarily. I'm German, British, and Czechoslovakian. I'm part German, British, and Czechoslovakian, aka white, the umbrella. And I do claim whiteness because I understand that whiteness is a disease. It is something that I understood and came from. And because I love myself, I'm proud of who I am today. And who I am today has to navigate through that mental illness. So I would say that I'm proud of who I am and what I've navigated through, and whiteness is a part of who I am, so I'm proud to have navigated through it, and I will claim it as something that I've navigated through. I think that, yes, I guess I'm just fleshing out a lot of things, but in order for me to understand that portion of myself, I'm also half Chinese, right? But in order for me to understand the portion of myself that is white, that is Czechoslovakian, British, and German, I need to fundamentally understand Black liberation and Indigenous liberation and melanin abundant liberation, because now I know legally that Black is a terminology that indicates a minor, right? It's a legal terminology. It's not an identity. Although what I will say about it is that regardless of it, the beauty of reclamation it's so powerful. The reclamation of the word Black, while it is a spell, you still see Black people who are very proud of being Black and claiming that word despite of the colonizers making that a spell, right? It makes me think about hip hop, how it still originally has the indigenous roots to it, and it's remade and it's actually turned into a wheel of liberation, because how many people now use beats in their beats, the just the way that music is architectured throughout the global infrastructure of music, right? It's being utilized by everybody. You see K-pop, where is that influence from? And everything, of course, you can go back to jazz and rock and roll and just soul in general. I know the lineage of soul is rooted in melanin abundance. And in order to really understand what it means to be of a leastly melanated background, you have to understand the root, right? And the root is that we all come, people are calling it Africa, but then when we think about Pangea, Africa and the United States, or Turtle Island, were right next to each other. So it was all the cradle, right? And in order to understand what it means to be white, we have to understand what the colonizers did to the people. And I'm saying the people generally because the people of the global majority, but also to themselves, just the people, what colonizers did to the people. Because understanding our roots from a colonizer perspective of, we had witches, we had natural processes, we had our own practices of being in relationship with the land. But to really fully understand who we are in the context of now, we have to understand, first of all, what we did, one, and two, the question of why, right? Melanin is richness. And activated melanin is consciousness activation. It's the light codes, it's the information that we get from the sun, because we're all receiving information from the sun. The sun is giving us information, it's giving us life, it's giving us energy. So for people who are lacking in that, and who have cultivated a entire civilization based in the lack of that, to understand the psychological mechanism of desire of extraction from melanin abundant people, one's decolonization journey as a leastly melanated individual, we have to understand, first of all, I think, this is my thinking, we have to understand the joy, the celebration, the beauty of melanin abundance, right? Of melanin, first of all, because melanin is the chemical that interacts with the sun. It's our ability to be able to communicate with the sun. We all have melanin. We're all connected to the land. right? Into understanding that interconnectedness, and really appreciating the beauty of melanin abundant culture just generally, right? Indigenous peoples generally, just seeing the vibrance and the abundance and the listening to the rhythms of the land and the just the birthplace of humanity, truly, knowing that history and appreciating the vitality of that and the resilience and the, oh, I'm getting goosebumps when I'm thinking about it. And just and when we take it from historically the power and the majesty and the lessons, even the Buddha was melanin abundant, right? Buddha was melanin abundant. George Washington, I heard, was melanin abundant. Now it's like Beethoven was melanin abundant. Everybody black. So the beauty of the life that we've been able to live is because of the energy of the sun translating into beings who are made to be receptive to life force energy. And oh, I'm getting more goosebumps when I say that. And in the context of being able to really respect and appreciate that in ourselves, no matter what life is vibrant. And at times it's, in the colonizer experience, life is bleak, right? It is small, it's empty. It's, when you think about it from a land perspective, thinking about England or Germany, they're not very fruitful areas. And I think it's important to, as for me, right? For me, it's very important to find the wisdom in it. Just because people who are in survival mode did not understand, generally, the wisdom of their time frames, I think it has taken several generations for people who are of colonizer descent to really appreciate the wisdom that comes, because the land is always giving us wisdom, no matter where it is we come from, right? And the wisdom of humility, the wisdom of less, the wisdom of, there's a line in Avatar where Uncle Iroh, he talks about there is a simple wisdom in poverty. And I understand that. And I feel that in my bones with my people on both sides, the colonizer and the Chinese, because my people were village, right? First they were village, homeland village, and then they moved to Hong Kong and they were in the projects in Hong Kong, right? I still call that village, although you could call it projects. There was the projects. But it was less. It was simple. When I think about what my people, these little pink plastic footstools that people would sit on, pails, right? Dirt. I'm not glamorizing poverty. I'm very clear about that. Because people glamorize poverty and think that just because there is a simple wisdom in poverty, that means that people should stay poor. I don't think it's my decision to decide for other people what they need. But what I can do with that information is create infrastructure so that people who want to get out of that situation have very easy pathways and able to do so. Have support and infrastructure. But there is a wisdom to less, right? So, tying it back to, I'll tie this back to my understanding of liberation movements as it is now. The ability to look in the face of abundance and cultivate it and have a very abundant life with the lens of less is more. I have enough. I don't need to have a lot, right? I don't need to have a lot in regards to stuff and things, and but quality, right? It allows for a refinement of quality. I can create a very high quality life, still engage with a very large amount of abundance, but allow that to process through my quality so that it can go back out to the people. That's my understanding. And I'll give a lived example, right? So, for example, I was just talking about the Yorubas, Orishas, right? The Orishas, right? And Yoruba. It's an incredibly abundant spiritual practice. And there's an abundance of people that practice it. And from my experience, the wisdom that I have from being part colonizer and imperialism, I don't need to, I know it's the root, I know it's the foundation, right? And I don't need to know all of the intricacies of the process or the procedures. I don't need to know everything. I don't need to know it all. I don't feel this need to be like, I need to be invited by somebody who's in it to feel accepted. No, it's like, if life gave me some wisdom from that particular subsection of life, I'm honored and I'm grateful for it. And I'll be able to put it into practice. And it takes away the over attachment to identity while still appreciating identity. And allowing for that balance to cultivate gems, so that, it's like that middle point. I feel like for me, something that I've been thinking about even today was the balance of we cannot be free until we're all free, and knowing that freedom is something that's within first. And I guess it's a balance, right? Because in one lifetime, we can do a lot in one lifetime. We absolutely can do a lot in one lifetime. And it's very important to know that we can't do it all. It's very important to do what we can, and to have faith and knowing in our power for impact. Who am I thinking of right now? Madame St. Clair, quiet owner of Harlem. During, what was it? Around the time of Bumpy Johnson, right? Around the time of the mob being very 1920s time frame. No, Bumpy Johnson. Bumpy Johnson was 19, because he and Malcolm were close. So that would be, that would be more like the 50s. The 50s or 60s. But she owned Harlem quietly, privately. She ran the numbers. She was a gambler. She had the house. She ran the numbers. She was the owner of the gambling houses. Across the board. When the mob tried to do some shit, she said, I own Harlem. And everybody knew it. And, her as an ancestor, is an affirmation for me of how we can use the tools of this third dimension that they made for our own devices. And I don't necessarily feel the need to go into depth about what my what my devices are. But I know what we are. And I know what every child is worthy of. Respect, dignity, support, infrastructure, food, access, opportunity, shelter, clean water, good food too, I'm calling it. High quality food from the earth, right? Community, excitement, exploration, schooling, education, knowledge, but not just knowledge on a reading and writing history basis, but from a knowledge of self. Know who you are. Chakras, Merkaba, knowledge of self, history. Every child deserves that. Every child. Every single child. You'll never hear me say otherwise. Every single child, regardless of the circumstances around them, deserves that chance, those opportunities. So, yeah, I just am. This is meant to be a virtual diary, so those are some kind of thoughts that I was ruminating on today. I'll just read a couple of things I wrote down in my notebook here. What's happened since Saturday? I've maintained a clean house in chosen areas for the most part. My last 2 years living in this house in a domestic violence relationship, which I have a lot of love for them and boundaries. Boundaries, grief. I processed some of that this morning. Yeah, it was filthy. The house was filthy. I just didn't have the energy to keep it up. Sometimes it wasn't filthy, but for the most part, it was. But I have been maintaining a clean house. Particularly in, so that feels good. God, it was like, in the back of my mind, I was always like, I want my house to be clean. I want my house to be clean. 2 toddlers and just an individual doesn't want to clean. But for me, before I had children, before I always had a clean house. So it's a skill that I have, and it's just nice to see myself coming back to myself in that way. Consistent regulation with the children. In parentheses, rage that they trigger is fading. In consistency, it's replaced with cherishment. There's ancestral rage. I have ancestral things that I have to work on. Part colonizer, part Chinese. We got some blood on our hands. And it's repression. Got a lot of that. So I know I have that. And I know that everything that I create from my reality is coming from my reality. So everything that comes back to me is a recreation of something that's happening inside of me. It's my duty to be responsible to my manifestations in that regard and take responsibility for them. So I will say that there is sometimes just this bubbling up anger, hatred, just it's like sometimes it's just right there, and other times it's nowhere to be seen. But I have been exiting this domestic violence relationship, and I'm saying it very specifically. This is again my diary, so I'm saying this for myself, and I'm saying it very specifically because I have to ground it in what was really true, right? It was for the past 4 years, I feel like I was like, oh, this is this huge, amazing, and it was. And that other truth was true. So that I can continuously be rooted in accountability, responsibility for being able to move from a place of where now I'm aware where my boundaries were gone, where they were evaporated before, and then additionally, right? But bringing it back to consistent regulation with children, it's like when you already have your own whatever, and then you engage with a high level of abuse, it goes in, then you have to squash it because you're like, oh my God, if I blow up, then I'm gonna get beaten, I'm gonna yell at, right? And then once that is no longer the same situation, the feelings have to come back up. And this is, they should. I would rather let them out than not, because I don't want to hold that. It's just not, I just don't want to hold it. I don't need to. And that rage would sometimes come out unconsciously. I would just snap on my babies, just yell like that. And I've been consistently regulating with my babies. I've been consistently being very like okay, like I see. And the thing is that rage is grief, right? It's grief. So we watch, because it's grief for, I wish that I'd been able to give you more. I wish that you didn't have to experience what you experienced. I wish that I was more resourced now to be able to give you what it is that you need. I wish. And it's like moving from a place of integration and allowing for change and allowing for that sense of resourcedness to really come from within and be like, I am resourced now. I'm resourced now. I'm resourced now. I'm resourced now. And all of that grief, that's always just grief that we have on the inside. It never reflects on the child. The child is navigating through intense emotions, especially at a young developmental age. They're navigating an intense emotions. They're learning how to be a human. I saw a video once, oh my God, of this woman who posted about her child, or just talking about like the functionalities of a toddler. And it was a video of, the caption was, imagine being angry at your child and this is what's going on. And it was a video of like her child walking in the snow and just having a ball in the snow. And the audio was, it was a recording of their child making sounds like do da dee 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 do do da do do dee da. Like, I feel like that was so accurate. It was just like, this is a baby. They're like, oh my God, my world is so excited. Even last night, my children, they're looking at this fucking fly that they call a bee. It's flying around. They're like, bee! It's like 2:00 in the morning and they're screaming, it's a bee! It's a bee! Oh my God, it's a bee! It's a bee! It's a bee! It's a bee! And like, of course, in reflection, I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. Like that. That amount of joy and excitement is just phenomenal. And I was exhausted. I was like, go to sleep now. I just, I'm still getting my structures and my routines together. But I say all that to say, I feel like, it's a major accomplishment to be able to consistently, this cherishing that I'm sharing now it's the truth. And to be able to live in that as often as I am, I'm just grateful. I've been consistent in prayer. Prayer has been more like, I've been praying for others more. And then also I've been thinking about prayer as like because I was thinking about like a bank. I've been thinking about finances a lot, right? So I've been thinking about it like a bank. It's like you have your fear bank and you have your joy bank, right? And I have been intentionally investing into my joy bank, thinking about my future, thinking about the place that we're going to move to, thinking about the income that I have going in, just the surprise, just the miracles, right? I'm just like, yeah, I'm so grateful, yeah, oh my God. And just like, and eliciting this feeling of intense gratitude, of joy, of being so grateful. I've had many times in my life where I've been so grateful that tears have just been streaming down my face, and intentionally investing that feeling into things like my stable housing situation that is available for me and my children. I'm just so grateful that we pushed through and we're able to just really just be held and just the abundance of support from community, the child care, the income, the miracles, the alignment with supported community that is truly here for my freedom and I'm here for theirs, and just able to just appreciate my value and our creative ability, expression, the scientific discovery. I'm just, like just investing into that joy, investing into that gratitude there. And when the fear bank comes up, the anxiety, the isolationism, the feelings of what would you call it? Imposter syndrome, right? I'll withdraw from that bank, and through the alchemy of observation be like, okay, this is happening right now. All right. My body's feeling it, but from a higher awareness standpoint, okay. All right, I'm going through this right now. I will observe it, alchemize it, and then invest it into that joy bank. Meaning, amazingly, my phone died while I was recording, and I'm just gonna stitch this onto the video because I'm not sure where it stopped, and I don't really feel like checking right now. But what I had just finished speaking on was prayer. Was just speaking life into the world, speaking life, speaking inspiration. I know it's tough. I know that just speaking life into the children, no matter where they are, the Congo, Sudan, Lebanon, here in Newark, across the board. There's so many places, right? And I know it's important to speak on them specifically, but I'm just speaking to the frequency of the children. May their joy be celebrated. May they continuously be reminded in their awe. May they be inspired. May they be healthy. May they never give up. May they never lose hope. May they always find some reason to be hopeful, Just prayers to the people in my life who have prayed for me, and just prayers of gratitude for the joy and the celebration. My children get to experience the thriving, the health, as they continue to be shown how life is good for them, how it's better for them, how it keeps getting better for them. That's what I want them to. That's what I want to give to them, to that gratitude that they get to experience that. And I just the future is so bright. It's so bright. And I am just I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. So, one step at a time, we continue. May we be well. May we be clear, healthy, happy, and free.